Dr. Mohamed Juldeh Jalloh, along with his entourage. Can we give them a warm welcome, please?
We will start with, before I come to our sister, perhaps one of the hardest fighting originators, the Pauper group, the Pauper team. I'll call him Al-Haji, Dr. Kanja Sise. And I will leave the Vice President because when he comes, I can't speak anymore. Our Deputy Minister of Water Resources, Dr. Mohamed. She reminded me she's the first Kono woman of cabinet ranking. Isn't that wonderful? And Fuller for that matter. Isn't that great? And of course, my friend, I call him the architect of grassroots community organizing. He always says he's an organizer first before he becomes a diplomat. My good friend, my brother, Dr. Ali Kaba, who also played a very critical role, the United Nations representative. And of course, the woman, sometimes I call her our reverend in cabinet, in government, my sister, and the hardest working, perhaps, Deputy Ambassador, you know what he does? For political affairs, my sister, Suleimani, Deputy Ambassador Suleimani. The mural of Baibure, the original picture of Baibure. Well, there was a gentleman that got us that and donated it to our country. My good friend, who is actually a paramount chief, Mr. Gary Schultz. And there's also Mr. Will Jawando. He's a council member at large for Montgomery County. He will be presenting a proclamation, but I'll let, before the VP speech, maybe just to make it proper, because some of us ran for office too. We know how these things work, but thank you for being here. But ladies and gentlemen, now let me put it this way. The visit of the Vice President leading a high-end delegation in this country, and he reminded me, he said, Ambassador, I have never been to the United States, but by what he has done over these past couple of days, we will say in our home language on the streets of New York, yeah, the VP is a homeboy, isn't it? Well, let me tell you, I have seen and I have witnessed in the room to see perhaps, not perhaps, and I think this is true, the youngest vice president in Sierra Leone history. And he, in all of these interventions, and I also want those people who said the last time the ambassador was not at the airport, I want to make a correction right here. I'm standing right here. I have seen and I have witnessed in the room to see perhaps, not perhaps, and I think this is true, the youngest vice president in Sierra Leone history. And he, in all of these interventions, and I also want those people who said the last time the ambassador was not at the airport, I want to make a correction right here. I'm standing right here today. Oh, I just saw my niece, Zainab, over there, and Jamiru. I know they will kill me if I don't recognize them also, so thank you so much for being here. Now, let me go to this young, dynamic, intelligent, likable, a people person. Well, he hasn't adopted the term politician yet. But I'll tell you, in the interventions, meeting with the State Department, meeting with all of the government functionaries from the top. He didn't come here to meet with secretaries. He came here and he met with assistant secretaries that are running the world. And when he sat in front of them, you would have been proud to say, Sierra Leone's best is sitting across the table from you. And he will argue intellectually. He will present forcefully and with a smile. And when he left, I cannot forget the trade mission. The top guy there said, Mr. VP, I'm going to give you my personal cell number so that we could be telling me about what is happening in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, let me stop, but just you don't introduce a leader. You present a leader. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and stand up to bring on the stage Sierra Leone's finest, as we call Dr. Juldeh Jalloh, Vice of the Republic of Sierra Leone.
We can do better than this. Our VPs in the house.
very much. Ambassador, kindly please sit down. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that very brotherly introduction. And I also want to use the opportunity to thank all of you for coming. Usually, as a politician, when you move around, you got to meet people. And I'm delighted to be here today to meet my own people, to meet our people, and to meet Sierra Leoneans that have been contributing immensely to keeping the Sierra Leonean state over the last 50 years. I say this because yesterday at the mosque, I said it categorically that in the last 40, 50 years, it is Sierra Leoneans in the diaspora who kept that country moving. It is people in the diaspora who have been sending monies, paying school fees, looking after their parents, looking after their brothers and sisters, and even sending them to perform the Hajj. I want to thank you very much for that. I normally say our own international community is the diaspora because, believe it or not, it is because you have been working very hard, supporting the country, supporting the people that has kept Sierra Leone. If you imagine for one moment that all those Sierra Leoneans that are outside of Sierra Leone, if they are in Sierra Leone in those very difficult times, I wonder how we will have managed to survive as a country. So I want to thank you very much on behalf of His Excellency the President, the government, and the people of Sierra Leone for your generous contribution to keep the Sierra Leonean state in the last 50 years. Believe me or not, I normally tell people, when you are from the diaspora, you have to stand up like a hero and heroine because you made Sierra Leone what it is today. Make no mistake. On the second note, I also want to thank the embassy staff, members of the Sierra Leone People's Party, my family, friends and sisters. Since I arrived here, a couple of days ago, it has been home, like the ambassador said, hometown boy. I don't know how to say it better than that. Home boy. And members of my delegation, believe you me, they started complaining that they are putting additional kilos because the reception, the hospitality has been wonderful. Like the ambassador said, His Excellency the President asked me to lead a delegation to come to Washington to engage American stakeholders on the MCC. It has been a very fine experience because we came with a story to tell the American people how we have been doing, what we have been doing, and what we intend to do for Sierra Leone. Because when you sit down in Africa and don't come and engage important stakeholders in Washington, nobody else will tell your story, you have to tell your story. So we spent the last couple of days engaging important Congress people, engaging American stakeholders, institutions, to tell them since 18 months, a couple of months ago, we came to power, we have been trying our little best to transform Sierra Leone. Back home, what have we been doing? I will not bore you with so many things we are doing, but I'll just highlight few that will give you a clear insight into the challenging dynamics in Sierra Leone and how we are grappling with those dynamics. First, when we came in, His Excellency the President designed a manifesto that is essentially focused on human capital development. because we believe as a people, as a government, that when you invest in developing the human capital, that is the starting point for transforming your country. To do that, we took 22% of our budget and allocated it to education. We declared free quality education for primary and basic kids. Today in Sierra Leone, we are paying school fees, buying teaching materials, learning materials, and some instances, feeding programs and school buses for over 2,150,000 people in Sierra Leone. Today, if you go to any village, 8 out of 10 Sierra Leonean kids wants to go to school. They are just running to school. Every day we are building new schools, we are improving schools, we are recruiting teachers. We just recruited additional 5,000 teachers to support that. Make no mistake that we know the value of education. And I feel very, very glad and heartened that members from other political parties have acknowledged that tremendous effort we are making. That is just the start, because we want to transform the entire educational sector in that country, starting from primary, basic, up to university. The other area where we have been spending resources is the health sector. In the health sector, when we came in, budgetary allocation was 6%. We moved it from 6% to 11.4%. Today, every 2 months, we are either building one hospital or we are opening a new hospital in Sierra Leone. In Freetown alone, we have rebuilt, repaired, rehabilitated 2 big hospitals today that are essentially dedicated to maternal and child health. The one in PC and the one in Kiamaro. We are in the process of recruiting additional 4,000 nurses to feed that sector. While I'm in the United States, we've engaged institutions and agencies to see how we can expand healthcare teaching programs so that at least we can get institutions that can go and retrain those nurses. Also, we have discussed the possibility for government to establish a scheme and to institutionalize a scheme that Sierra Leonean expertise in the health sector here, from doctors to surgeons to nurses, will go to Sierra Leone and support that process. We are working on that, and be rest assured, as a government, we are going to put resources into that. This is a government that can spend money where money is needed. Equally, we are in the process of building an ultra-modern diagnostic hospital. We want to do that so that we can reduce overseas travel for medical attention in neighboring countries. We have been working very hard to expand the possibility for access to water. We are trying, we have a program now, we are trying to expand water distribution in Freetown, because when the Guma Valley was established, it was established for 300,000 people. Today Freetown is over 2 million. So we want to build a water infrastructure because that is critical. We are also expanding, doing ad hoc interventions in communities where they are struggling to have access to water. We normally say, that is what I told our American friends. I say one of the greatest challenges that faced African leaders in the 70s, 80s, and 90s is their excessive focus on the social sector. Meaning, when you are in government, your responsibility is not only to build schools. Your responsibility is not only to build hospitals, build roads, and make water. Your responsibility is also to build an economy capable of providing jobs so people will pay taxes. That is what we call the productive sector. What are we doing in the productive sector? Because when you have a government that is taking 40% of its budget, putting that into the social sector, you need an economy to support that. If not, it will collapse. So as a result, we have decided to diversify the economy, create new areas where government can make additional resources so that those resources will in turn be used to support the social sector. One key sector we want to do that in is the agricultural sector. Agricultural sector. In the agricultural sector, we have three overriding objectives. First, when you go to Sierra Leone, you know Sierra Leone. 7 months of rainfall, adequate climate. Today we are spending over $400 million to import food in Sierra Leone, of which $240 million on rice alone. When you look at Sierra Leone, be honest, we don't need to import rice. We don't need to import rice. So we are investing in what we call the rice chain development. We have been engaging international institutions, the Islamic Development Bank, the African Development Bank, and other key private sector companies in Turkey to come and invest in the rice chain. Already, at our modest way, government has provided additional resources into that. We are increasing the yield in Sierra Leone, and be rest assured we are benchmarking our gradual production of rice so that we can reduce importation, so that at the end of the day we'll be able to produce more rice, so that Sierra Leone will not import rice. Senegal, when Macky Sall came to power a couple of years ago, he has so far reduced rice importation to Senegal by 40%. And we have a better climate, so we should be able to beat the 40% mark. So the first objective under agriculture is food self-sufficiency. A nation can only grow and prosper, support the social sector, where you can feed yourself. We are on that. The second objective is value addition, agro-business. For some of us who have got the opportunity to work in other West African countries, where you go to countries like Senegal, Ghana, Mali, Burkina Faso, these are not countries that are doing better than we are supposed to do. But when you go to the supermarket, you realize that 40 to 50% of the baby food are produced in these countries. In Sierra Leone, we only have one outlet producing one baby food. That is Benimix, and it is largely under-resourced. They don't have the capital to expand. So, make no mistake, my dear brothers and sisters, value addition, agro-business, it is critical to establishing a small-scale industry we need to begin to build the economy. Because even if you look at this water now, Creek Land, if you go to Freetown supermarket, you find it. We don't need to import water from the United States. We should be able to produce that. We don't need to import Coke, Fanta, and Sprite. These are basic things that all the countries in West Africa today are producing. We should be able to do that. That is the only way you can add value to agriculture, and that is the only way you can create a productive base capable of feeding people. Today in Sierra Leone, sugar, cooking oil, tomato, you name it, all of these things are imported. And most of our neighboring countries don't import these things any longer. They produce them. Dairy food, yogurt, milk, all of these things are produced in this country. So that is why agriculture is key for us. Our third objective on agriculture is employment. When you are spending 22% of your budget to provide free quality education, in the next 10, 15 years, today, 8 out of every Sierra Leonean kid is going to school. In the next 15 years, you have thousands and thousands of Sierra Leoneans coming out of university and they need jobs. You have to cater for them. You have to create an entry point for them. You have to get them connected to the social economy so that at least they can have a job and establish a family. Agriculture is the future for job creation in Sierra Leone. When you invest in agriculture, when you expand the productive sector, when you build value addition in agro-business, believe you me, you'll be able to create the jobs we need to cater for the young people. Another sector that we want to invest in, which is a productive sector, where we want to see how we could make additional resources, is the marine resource, fisheries. Over the years, the only money Sierra Leone has been getting from fisheries and marine resources is what we call license fees. When this boat comes, they just pay license fees. Whatever they export, we don't get money from it. But for you to do that, you have to build infrastructure, which means you have to get the fishing boats to the harbor. You have to build a fish harbor, and then you have to build a fish processing center so that you can get additional resources by exporting marine products. Sierra Leone has fantastic marine resources, but because we don't have the capability to transform that sector, we have not been getting much. That is one sector where government is spending money. Already we have a grant to build a fish harbor, and we are in the process of engaging companies to build a fish processing center that will allow us to create jobs in that sector and also export fish so that we can get additional resources. So marine is one area. The other area is tourism. You know, in the 80s, Sierra Leone was a tourist destination. When I was a student in Bordeaux, I went to buy a postcard. I went to a tourist shop and I saw pictures of Sierra Leone. The tour guide was taking me around explaining to me how beautiful Sierra Leone is, how competitive Sierra Leone was. And I told him, "Je suis Sierra Leone." He said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yes." I said, "That's my country." Which means in the 80s, this used to be a sector that was bringing additional revenue to Sierra Leone. We are trying to build the infrastructure, to put the regulatory framework to attract tourism. And tourism is not only to bring Westerners. Tourism is also to encourage and create the space for Sierra Leoneans in the diaspora to go to Sierra Leone cheaper, to spend cheaper, and to be there and see their families. That is why in the last budget, we have almost abolished all additional GST taxes on anything that has to do with aviation, because we want to bring the airfare to Sierra Leone down, down, down. We are reducing taxes for airplanes and services. Also, that is why a couple of months ago, Sierra Leone is now an entry visa country. You can fly any day, anytime. You get to Lunge, you have your visa, and you do what you want to